Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajakacharsha Asthotra Sutta Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajakacharsha Asthotra Sutta Sri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantikoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikoho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Gopardhan Ki Jai. Sri Braj Bhumi Brindaban Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri Ki Jai. Dwarka Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. New Dwarka Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Gauda Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tatascha sorir bhagavat prachoditaha. Sutam samadaya sasutika grihat. Yada bahirgantum iyeshatharhyaja. Ya yoga maya janinanda jayaya. Tatascha sorir bhagavat prachodita. Sutam samadaya sasutika grihat. Yada bahirgantum yeshatharhyaja. Ya yoga maya janinanda jayaya. Tatascha sorir bhagavat prachodita. Sutam samadaya sasutika grihat. Yada bahirgantum yeshatharyaja. Ya yoga maya janinanda jayaya. thereafter. Cha, indeed. Sodi, Vasudev, Bhagavat Prachoditaha, being instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sutam, his son, Samadaya, caring very carefully. Saha, he, Sutika, Grihat, from the maternity room. Yada, when, Bahikantum, to go outside. Iyesha, desired. Tarhi, exactly at that time. Aja, the transcendental energy, who also never takes birth. Ya, who, Yogamaya, is known as Yogamaya. Ajani, took birth. Nanda Jayaya, from the wife of Nanda Maharaj. Thereafter, exactly when Vasudev, being inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was about to take the newborn child from the delivery room, Yogamaya, the Lord's spiritual energy, took birth as the daughter of the wife of Maharaj Nanda. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur discusses that Krishna appeared simultaneously as the son of Devaki and as the son of Yashoda, along with the spiritual energy Yogamaya. As the son of Devaki, he first appeared as Vishnu, and because Vasudeva was not in the position of pure affection for Krishna, Vasudeva worshipped his son as Lord Vishnu. Yashoda, however, pleased her son Krishna without understanding his godhood. This is the difference between Krishna as the son of Yashoda and as the son of Devaki. This is explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti on the authority of Haribamsa. Om Gyantimidandasya Gyananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Judha Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanbitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanbitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patithanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasati Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. We are reading this morning from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 3, entitled The Birth of Lord Krishna, text 47. I'm very grateful to be with you. In the previous verses, we read of the incredible challenges, sacrifices of Devaki and Vasudeva, who were simple, innocent devotees of the Lord, who by their pure devotion, not only in this life, but in previous lives, were destined to be the mother and father of the Supreme Personality of God. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Aham bija pratapita, that I am the father of all living beings. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate, that I am the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from me. Janmadhyasayataha. The origin of everything and everyone that exists is that one supreme absolute truth, Krishna. So how is it that the eternal Father of all beings, who has no beginning, who has no end, who's beyond birth and death, how is it that that personality is taking birth in Mathura, which is a beautiful little town which today is about 90 miles southeast of New Delhi. And he has a mother and a father, Vasudeva and Devaki. And who is Abhigya and Swarat, who is all-knowing, who is completely, ultimately, supremely independent to do anything he wishes, at any time. Prabhupati Prabhu was so beautifully describing yesterday, the Lord has achintya shakti, inconceivable potencies. He was quoting from Jiva Goswami that a preliminary principle of even approaching the truth of God or Bhagavan is to understand this inconceivable potencies. Achintya. Inconceivable means beyond the possibility of our intelligence, our mind, our rational thinking to comprehend. We can, to some extent, accept things, but to actually conceive of it. How is it that the one absolute truth, who's a person, who's the supreme object of love, who's the supreme lover, knows everything? Vedaham samatitani varatamanani charjuna. Knows everything, knows every thought of every living being in all material and spiritual worlds, and every thought that we have ever had, and never forgets. Knows exactly what's happening everywhere, everything, who's expanded himself to be all existence, who simply by his thought, the entire cosmic manifestation is manifested, who simply by his glance he impregnates limitless living beings within the cosmic creation, who simply by his inhalation can annihilate the whole universes. It's inconceivable. And what's even more inconceivable is just to exchange love for his devotees. He becomes a little boy. Not he becomes a little boy, he is a little boy. And he's crawling, and he's crying when there's thunder. And he's crawling to find his mother, and when he sees, he hears the tinkling of her ankle bells, he's crawling as a little baby through the muddy ground of Gokul, and he wants so much to be in the shelter of his mother, and he's crawling, and then he approaches his mother, and he looks up, and it's a different gopi. And he becomes so afraid, he starts crying and crawls away as fast as he can. That's the exclusive love that he's feeling. And it's not just an illusion, he's just like playing something. He's actually feeling like this, that I'm dependent on my mother's love. She needs to give me shelter. If it was just like some dramatic actor who's just playing a role that really doesn't have anything to do with that person's life, that's different. But Krishna becomes so immersed in feeling the love of his devotee and being loved by the devotee that he's feeling dependent on his mother, even though he's completely, totally conscious that he's the independent, absolute truth, the cause of all causes, and the ability in people, the intelligence in people, the everything. Every living being is just an expansion, a fragmental expansion of him. And yet he's feeling. That's the power of prema, of love. Now we're listening, and some of you are smiling, and some of you are sleeping. Some of you are thinking, this is inconceivable, because it really is inconceivable. The only possibility of really understanding these things is by the grace of the Lord. Because part of the inconceivable potency of the Lord is he can make the inconceivable conceivable for people who cannot conceive it. And that is grace, divine grace. So here we're coming to this place in the Srimad Bhagavatam, of all places for Krishna to take birth. Because he's Swayam Bhagavan. He's the source of all avatars. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, the Srimad Bhagavat explains. He has appeared in so many incarnations. The Bhagavat Purana tells that like there are waves in the ocean, the Lord appears in various avatars. In some of the primary Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narasingha, Vamana, Parasuram, Lord Sri Ramchandra, Buddha, Balaram, and the source of all these incarnations is described as Krishna. And he's Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He's the proprietor of everything that exists. But he chooses to take birth in an underground prison dungeon. There was no doctors there. Well, not even any light. He could have, if he wanted to, he could have taken place in a heavenly planet, in a beautiful palace, in a prison. And his mother, while she's giving birth to him, is in chains. And the father's in chains. And it describes that he took birth not like a regular child. He wasn't conceived the way ordinary beings in this universe are conceived. He simply appeared through the love of Vasudev's mind into the love and of the heart of Devaki, and then manifested himself in her womb. And on the midnight, which is coming up, Janmashtami, he just appeared outside of her womb. She didn't go through any labor or anything like that. He just appeared outside, and he appeared glowing. He lit up the entire prison cell. He was in his form of Narayan, with 4 arms, holding a kankshala, a disc, a club, and a lotus flower. He had a beautiful golden crown, kaustubhamani, wonderful jewels. He was beautiful. He was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, manifesting himself, fully dressed with elegant garments. Vasudeva and Devaki understood that the absolute truth, the cause of all causes, the Supreme God has appeared as our child. And they offered their prayers. They surrendered their hearts. Yes, they were in that prison cell for many years, and they endured seeing their own previous little babies, 6 of them, slaughtered before their eyes by Kamsa. But they kept having children because they knew this was the will of the Lord. Krishna reciprocates with our surrender. He didn't make it easy for Vasudeva and Devaki. They offered their prayers, but still, even though they knew he was God, they felt that they were his mother and father. They knew that he was choosing them to play this role. And in her motherly love, Devaki prayed to Krishna that if Kamsa's already killed so many of my babies because he's afraid that any of the babies could be Vishnu. And now you're manifesting that you actually are Vishnu. So he might hurt you. So please disguise this form. That was her motherly love. She wasn't saying, Krishna, protect me. She was praying, Krishna, I want to protect you. And Krishna explained to them that the form I take, Vasudeva, you should carry me across the river Yamuna to Gokul and exchange me for the little baby that will just be born from Nanda and Yashoda. Then he took the form of a little tiny baby. And we read in the chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam later how Devaki fed little Gopal, baby Gopal, the milk from her breast before Vasudeva took him away. They completely fell in love with this child, totally. They sacrificed so much of their lives for so many years just to have this child. And the first minutes of his birth, he's telling them, take me away to somewhere else. And they accepted it. The chains were loosened by Krishna's own inconceivable potency. The guards fell asleep. The gates opened. The river Yamuna, which was flooding due to monsoons, gave passage to Vasudeva to walk across it. Ananda Shesha became an umbrella to protect the little baby from rains that were pouring. And here in this particular verse, Srila Prabhupada is citing from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Because Krishna has already given the direction to Yogamaya that I will be born. First, before I'm born, my loving brother and first expansion, Baladev, will take birth. He will appear in the womb of Devaki. You should transfer him to Rohini's womb in Gokul. That's a beautiful story. And then when I appear in this world, you should appear in your Yogamaya form as the daughter of Yashoda. But here we're hearing from the Haribamsa, from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that Krishna simultaneously appeared as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki in Mathura, and along with Yogamaya, he appeared as he was born from Yashoda. So both Devaki and Yashoda are the genuine mothers of Krishna. And Jiva Goswami explains in Gopal Champu very, very elaborately this story. It's incredible to read, to hear. But when Vasudeva was going to carry Krishna from Mathura to Gokul, the original Krishna, Shamsundar, son of Nanda and Yashoda, and the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, they became one. Devaki's child entered into the child of Yashoda. And Vasudeva placed that child, he didn't know what was happening. He was just doing what he was supposed to do. And he placed that little child on the bedside of Yashoda, who was sleeping by Krishna's arrangement, and then he took the little girl Yogamaya away. The beautiful secrets that are explained in this purport are really inconceivable, but by Srila Prabhupada's grace and our Guru Parampara, they become so easy for us to understand and to accept also. That Devaki, she worshipped her son with motherly affection as the supreme Godhead. Yashoda, she didn't worship her son. She just loved her son as her son. She did not have the conception that he's God. And even though during Krishna's incredible Leela in Vrindavan, in Gokul, Krishna manifested only what the Supreme Absolute Truth could do. When he was hardly a couple days old, he liberated Putana, who was really a big person. Very powerful. Can you imagine if she came to Los Angeles? What was she, 12 miles high? And she could fly in the sky, and she could change her form any way she wanted, and she was totally bloodthirsty and cruel. And this little infant sucks her milk and squeezes her, and she dies. And then Sakatasura, Janavarta, Agasura, Bakasura. Krishna yawns one day when he's a little tiny baby in the lap of his mother, and she happens to see in his mouth the entire universal creation, the Himalayan mountains, all the mountain ranges in the world, all the oceans, all the seas, all the planets, all the living beings. And Krishna's mouth is this big. She sees it. And at other times, Krishna lifts the Govardhan hill for 7 days and 7 nights with the little finger of his left hand and smiling the whole time. She's seeing this, but still, she couldn't assimilate the idea that he's God. She knew he was God, but her love for him was so intimate, so madhurya, so sweet as a mother, that her motherly love completely obscured her knowledge that he's the absolute truth. In other words, she had full realization of the opulence and greatness of God, but she was just so beyond that. The sweetness of her love made it impossible for her to even recognize that. Why? Because in the sweetness of that love, she gives the maximum happiness to Krishna, without any desire for her own happiness. And Krishna gives her the ultimate happiness, even though she doesn't want it. That is the ras of Sri Vrindavan Dham. The gopas, the gopis. And that is the very principle of the story of the Ratha Yatra, which is soon to come here in Los Angeles. With your permission, I'll speak briefly on this subject. We described on the day of Snan Yatra, where Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra, it's the birthday of the form of Jagannath, when he manifested this Mahabhav Prakash. While living in Dwarka, hearing the beautiful stories of Vrindavan Leela from Rohini Devi, which was being narrated to the queens, Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra heard it. And hearing the pastimes of Vrindavan, the loving exchanges of the gopas and the gopis and Sri Radha with Krishna, they became so ecstatic. Their eyes became so big, their limbs went into their bodies. And Narada Muni came and saw that. And he prayed, let there be somewhere in the world where this form of your ecstatic love and separation from Vrindavan will always be. And that is Jagannath Puri. And Ratha Yatra is so special because Krishna reveals in this beautiful pastime how he's always thinking of Vrindavan. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami explains that when he's with the queens of Dwarka, sometimes he's crying out the names of gopis. And the queens are saying, why are you calling out the names of gopis when you're sleeping? And sometimes even when you're awake. Krishna told the queens that actually I'm only thinking of them because their love is so pure and so sweet. And actually, I'm only with you because you remind me of the gopis. Now, for most people, that wouldn't go so nice, but for the queens, that was like really, they were really happy to hear that. Because there's no envy on the spiritual platform. That's the difference between material consciousness and spiritual consciousness. Material consciousness, there's envy in our hearts, different levels. And in the pure consciousness, there's no envy. Because love is for God's pleasure, Krishna's pleasure. And if it pleases Krishna to think of the gopis, and if it pleases Krishna to be with me because he reminds me of the gopis, that's absolutely wonderful. We're so honored, we're so grateful. He's comparing us to the gopis. There's no envy. They're seeing the exalted position. Whatever gives pleasure to Krishna is what gives me happiness. And even if they manifest externally some symptoms of envy, it's not envy. It's not that I want that position. They're just doing that only to increase Krishna's love. To show this is how much I want to love you and serve you. So Krishna's living in Mathura, and he sends Uddhava to to Vrindavan to give his message. And then when Uddhava comes back, he tells Krishna the condition of Nanda and Yashoda and the Gopas and the Gopis and Sri Radha. And Krishna's listening, and he's crying. And he said, actually, Uddhava, you're my closest friend here in Dwarka. You're my constant associate. But the real reason I sent you to Vrindavan is to learn from them, to understand what real love is. In the sweetest, highest, and fullest form. And in Dwarka, for many years, Krishna was living on the solar eclipse. Krishna and the royalty of Dwarka went to Kurukshetra, because that's the traditional place in India from very historical times to perform yajnas or sacrifices, spiritual ceremonies during the solar eclipse. And he invited the Brijbasis from Vrindavan. And when they were there and they saw Krishna in their minds, in their hearts, they wanted to bring him back to Vrindavan. And in the gopis' minds, in Sri Radha's minds, they made beautiful chariots and pulled those chariots from Krishna's Dwarka Lila in Kurukshetra back to Vrindavan. And that journey is the pastime of Ratha Yatra. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Srimati Radharani, he's Krishna with the Mahabhav, the love of Sri Radha, playing the role of a devotee, was very enthusiastic every year to participate in the Ratha Yatra and reveal the inner truths of this ceremony to the whole world. So we described after this Snan Yatra where Krishna is bathed with Balaram and Subhadra, and he goes into Anabasara. He goes into seclusion for one fortnight, approximately 15 days. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, unable to bear separation, goes to Alalanath. And when he heard the devotees were coming to meet him, he came back to Puri. And we described how King Prataparudra saw these devotees from his rooftop and asked Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Gopinathacharya, who are these people? I've never seen such illuminated people. I've never seen such love, such light. I've never heard such sweet singing. I've heard thousands of kirtans, but not like this. What is this? Sarvabhauma said, this is not just kirtan. This is prem sankirtan. This is the kirtan of ecstatic love for God. And this chanting of the holy names is the means in the age of Kali to awaken this love. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give the world this. King Prataparudra said, what's happening there? I'm seeing people running here. And he said, they're arranging prasad. Lord Chaitanya is arranging prasad for everybody. King Prataparudra said, how is this? People come to a holy place of pilgrimage. There's 200 of them. According to the scriptures, when you come to a holy place, you're supposed to fast for the first day. And you asking me to get all this Mahaprasad arranged? And they told the king that, why do people fast? Because the Lord tells them to fast when they come to a holy place. If the Lord tells you to eat prasad, then that's the highest dharma. The rules and regulations is only to please the Supreme Lord. So the Lord wants to feed his devotees with his own hands. So there's beautiful stories about how the Lord met all the devotees and gave each one of them garlands and embraced them and put sandalwood pulp on them and arranged personal residences for each one of them. Each one was clean. He gave personal assistance to each devotee that came, and he arranged wonderful prasad, Jagannath prasad, and so much prasad. Really nice too. And then they all came to his room first, and he greeted each one personally. And the loving exchanges of each individual devotee and Lord Chaitanya are described so nicely in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was praising each devotee, and each devotee was so humbled. It's wonderful to hear how they interact with each other. Really, the essence of what a Vaishnava is can be understood by hearing the conversations revealed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, between the Lord and the devotees, and between the devotees and each other. The Lord would say to Vasudev Dutt that even though I was intimate friends with your brother Mukunda, I feel even more close to you. And Vasudev said, actually, you knew my brother first, so therefore he's senior to me. And each one is putting themselves in a lowly position. They're being exalted in a higher position by the Lord, but they themselves are always putting themselves in a lower position than all the other devotees. This is Vaishnav competition. It's quite inconceivable. And it's not that putting oneself in a lowly position is some sort of, psychotic inferiority complex. It's a symptom of love. That you put yourself lower to someone because you just appreciate that person so much. It's your greatest happiness to be the servant inferior, feeling yourself inferior to that person. That's infinitely greater ecstasy than feeling yourself superior. Because it's based on love and appreciation and respect. And Krishna loves that feeling in his devotees. Lord Chaitanya asked, where is Murari Gupta? And Murari Gupta was hiding. He said, I don't deserve to be close to you. And Lord Chaitanya took him and put him on his lap. Instead of cleaning his body and praising Murari. And Murari said, no, I don't deserve to be touched by you. And Lord Chaitanya said, I'm touching you only to purify myself. And Lord Chaitanya said, where's Haridas Thakur? And they said, he's down the road offering his obeisances in the dust. Lord Chaitanya said, go bring him. And someone ran out to Haridas Thakur. Lord Chaitanya wants you to come. He said, I'm not qualified to come. I can't be so close to the temple. I'm an abominable person. And they came back and brought that message to Lord Chaitanya. And he accepted. This is his love. And he went through so much arrangements. He told Kashi Mishra, I want a little place right in the garden near the Jagannath temple. He said, yes, I will arrange. And then Lord Chaitanya went out to where Haridas was. And Haridas was laying down in obeisance, and Lord Chaitanya picked him up and embraced him. And the dialogue between them was so sweet. Lord Chaitanya gave Haridas a little cottage in a garden just next to the temple. He said, you chant here, and you look at the chakra on the top of the temple, and you will see Jagannath there. And every day I will come and meet you, and I will arrange prasadam for you each day. And he did. Every day he would come and spend hours with Haridas Thakur. So this is the love. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, soon after, he called Kashi Mishra Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the superintendent of Jagannath Temple, and said, that Jagannath is soon going to do the Ratha-yatra to Gundicha. That's the destination where he will stay about a week. He said, I want to clean the temple with my devotees. Please arrange whatever's required to clean the temple. Kashi Mishra said, it's not really befitting you to clean, but whatever you wish we will do. So the next morning, Lord Chaitanya had over 100 brooms. Now please hear this carefully. He personally, to each devotee, with his own loving divine hands, gave them a broom and instructed them how to sweep. He said, in this temple, Gundicha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is going to come. It must be completely clean. Every grain of sand, every piece of straw, and every particle of dust must be cleaned. And they swept and they swept and they swept, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was sweeping. And as he was sweeping, he was weeping, he was crying in ecstasy, sweeping the temple of the Lord. And they swept the ceilings and the walls and every room and the courtyards and every adjacent building to the temple. And they swept and they swept and they swept. And Lord Chaitanya, with his own cloth, would pick up piles of what he collected and put it outside. And all the dust, sand, and straw of all the other devotees was in one pile, and Lord Chaitanya's was in his own separate pile. And it was far bigger than all the hundreds of devotees. He was teaching by his example. And after they cleaned the whole temple, he said, now let us clean again with our brooms and search for finer particles of sand, straw, and dust. And they cleaned again until it was totally immaculate. And then there were hundreds of pots that were filled with water. And these hundreds of pots, devotees were just standing, waiting for the word of Lord Chaitanya. And when he gave the word, they started pouring the water on the ceilings, on the walls, on the altars, on the floors, on the kitchens, on the courtyards, everywhere. They were just washing and washing, and they were going back and forth with the pots. There was lines of devotees from Indrajumna Sarovar passing the pot from one to another, and finally it got to the temple and somebody poured it, and they took the empty pot and gave it to one devotee, gave it to another, all the way to Indrajumna Sarovar, which it's about a half a kilometer away. Something like that. And because they were all cooperating, they were all servant of the servant of the servant. And then to get more water, they were going into wells, they were going to other little ponds. Anywhere there was water, they were collecting water and bringing it. And they washed and washed and washed. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with his own cloth, he was shining different places. And one Bengali devotee poured the water on Lord Chaitanya's feet and drank it. Lord Chaitanya was externally angry, but internally he was mysteriously happy. And he told Swarup Damodar, who is this Bengali devotee who has caused me to make this offense, washing my feet and drinking that water in the temple of the Supreme Lord? So Swarup Damodar made him leave. He said, he's happy with you, but he's trying to show an example. And they cleaned and they shined it until the temple was absolutely pure. Then they went to Nrsimha's temple close by and did the same thing there. And after cleaning everything, hour after hour after hour, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, during the whole cleaning, the only thing anybody said was Krishna, Krishna. If you wanted a broom, if you wanted more water, if you needed anything, you would say Krishna, Krishna. And because they were so totally united in Krishna's names, in Krishna's seva, in serving together, they could completely understand everything the other person wanted just by hearing him say Krishna, Krishna. Everything was communicated. When the temple was cleaned, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had the mridangas and the kartals playing, and they started to sing, and Lord Chaitanya was dancing. And as the kirtan was going on, Lord Chaitanya turned to the son of Advaita Acharya, Gopal, and said, Gopal, please dance. Please hear this story. It's a very deep story. Gopal danced for about a moment and then fell to the ground unconscious in front of everyone. Advaita Prabhu, his father, ran and put Gopal's head on his lap and saw there was no breathing. There was not a single trace of consciousness in his son. And he was chanting in the ear of his son, and soon all the devotees, hundreds of devotees, were gathered around loudly chanting and chanting to somehow or other revive Gopal. But there was no consciousness. It appeared he was dead. And they were sprinkling his body with sacred water and chanting and chanting. Still no conscious. Advaita started to cry with his son in his arms. And all the devotees started crying. And then Lord Chaitanya smiled and he put his hand on Gopal's heart and said, Gopal, stand up. And immediately Gopal stood up. And the kirtan went to another level of tumultuous, ecstatic expression of prema bhakti. In this way, there was the cleansing of the Gundicha temple. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives an elaborate explanation that this is an instruction that if we want to see Krishna in our hearts, we must make our hearts pure. Because the reality is, Krishna is within the heart of every living being. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto. Krishna is within the heart of everyone as the Paramatma. That means our heart is Krishna's temple. It should be a pleasing place for Krishna to reside. It should be clean. For a devotee, the heart and the mind become one. What's in our mind is an expression of our heart. And within the temple of the mind, the heart, we should be worshiping Krishna with our every word, with our every act, with our every thought. And to do that, we have to have a very clean heart. And we clean the heart through hearing about Krishna. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna. The Srimad Bhagavatam says that when we take pleasure in hearing the message of Krishna, then Krishna is so pleased, he cleans the heart from within. Chaito Darapana Marajanam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was taught this chanting of the holy names and glories of the Lord. It cleans the heart. So by hearing and chanting, we clean the heart from the sand and the dust and the straw in the form of kutinati, the tendency to find faults with others. Pratishta, the desire for fame, adoration, lust, anger, envy, greed, arrogance, illusion, and all the various offshoots of these qualities. That's the dirt in our heart. By hearing, by chanting God's names and glories, we can clean Chaito Darpana Marachanam, all the dust. And as the heart becomes clean, Anandam Buddhi Bharatanam, then we begin to taste real happiness, true happiness. Not the artificial, superficial, illusory happiness of trying to enjoy through our mind and senses in this world. I'm the controller, I'm the proprietor, I'm the enjoyer. By living in a spirit of seva, of service, trinadapi sunichena. When we're humble like the grass, tador ibase hishnana, tolerant and forgiving like a tree, amani namanadena, when we offer all respect to others and do not demand it or expect it to ourselves. When we have this mood of service, Mahajano yena gata sapanta, because these are the essential qualities of all the great souls we read about in Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the great scriptures. This is the qualities we read about and hear about in all the history of the Acharyas. They're able to constantly chant God's names because they have those qualities. And the heart becomes clean. And we're very careful not to let any of that dirt back in. That's why Lord Chaitanya cleaned all around the temple and all the courtyards around the temple, so that nothing, after they cleaned it, nothing could get in. And that's the purpose of our regulative principles. We're cleaning and we're protecting. And when the heart is clean, and that cleaning is not just by our own effort. It's by God's grace. It's by Krishna's grace. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna. If we're sincere in our efforts to follow the principles of Srila Prabhupada, our Guru Parampara, in this way, then Krishna's pleased. He preserves what we have and carries what we lack. He cleanses our heart. And when our heart is clean, then Krishna is pleased to reveal himself to us within our heart. And what happens when Krishna reveals himself within our heart? When God reveals himself within our heart? Krishna tells in Gita, for one who sees me everywhere and everything in me, for that devotee I'm never lost, nor are they ever lost to me. When we see Krishna within our hearts, we can understand, we have realization how everything is part of Krishna. Everything is emanating from Krishna. I remember hearing the story long ago of Srila Prabhupada being approached by a devotee. How do we see Krishna everywhere? Because there's a lot of stuff in this world. Usually everything distracts us. Srila Prabhupada gave such a simple analogy. He said, you see my spectacles? When you look at my spectacles, what do you think? And the devotee said, oh, I'm thinking this is Prabhupada's spectacles. Prabhupada said, what do you feel? He said, when I see these spectacles, I remember you, I feel my love for you. And Prabhupada said, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, everything is Krishna's. Om Purnamada Purnamidam. So when you see Krishna in your heart, when you love Krishna, then you see every living being is a part of Krishna. Bandita Samadarshana. You see every living being is a child of your beloved. You see Krishna in the heart of everyone. And you see Krishna, his energy is everywhere. It's not just some mystical vision. It's the natural, spontaneous expression of love to see Krishna everywhere. When Krishna is revealed within our own hearts. And then in every situation, we cannot pollute, we cannot exploit. We respect everything and everyone, and we want to serve because we understand that Krishna's there. And the art of how to do that is the science of bhakti. So the next day after this, the next day after the cleansing of the Gundicha temple was Netrotsava, one of the most anticipated festivals of the year. After 15 days of being in seclusion, Jagannath gives his first darshan. And it's the early morning. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is really enthusiastic. Usually he stands behind the Garuda Stamba, which is behind the Kirtan Hall, Jagan Mohan, before the altar. But on this day he walked right by the Garuda Stamba, went right through the Jagan Mohan, the Kirtan and meeting hall, and went right onto Lord Jagannath's altar. He never does, but he was so enthusiastic, along with his devotees. And they saw the beautiful form of Jagannath. And it describes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's eyes were like honeybees. And they were drinking the beauty of the lotus eyes of Jagannath, which were like lotus flowers. Unblinkingly, for hour after hour, he was gazing upon the beautiful form of Jagannath, as was all the devotees. And tears were pouring from their eyes. Vipralamba and Sambhoga. After so many days of separation, the meeting was enhanced and intensified by the experience of that separation. And every now and then when there was a food offering, they just left the altar and performed incredible kirtan. As soon as the food offering was gone, they would stand just beholding the beauty of Jagannath. And they did this from early morning till the afternoon. And then he had kirtan. And they did a circumambulation around the temple of Jagannath, and he had 4 kirtan parties. And at one point, behind the temple, all 4 kirtan parties were singing and dancing and playing, I believe, 12 mridangas and 32 karatals. And Lord Chaitanya began to dance in the middle. And everyone was all around him. But they were saying that Lord Chaitanya is only looking at me. Now, it's not that he manifested 4 heads looking in 4 directions. And it's not that he was spinning around real fast. He was just standing there. But people on all sides around him were thinking, he's only looking at me. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami compares when Krishna would be on the bank of Yamuna having prasad, there would be so many hundreds and hundreds of gopas in circles around him, and a circle around that circle, and a circle around that circle. And every boy was thinking, Krishna's only looking at me. And when Krishna was dancing with gopis during the Ras Lila on the bank of Yamuna, each gopi was thinking, he's only dancing with me. Krishna's Rasa Vihari. He is so expert at fulfilling every devotee's desire. The unlimited, infinite, inconceivable capacity for the Lord to create, to maintain, to destroy not only this tiny little planet of Earth, but in the entire universe, and not only this tiny little universe, but all universes and all the spiritual worlds. What does it take to do that effortlessly? Just by his will. That's the greatness of God. But that's his external, that's the manifestation of his potency in this external world. In the internal world, that full potency and beyond is in the intimacy, the happiness, and the love that the Lord shares with his devotees. It's inconceivable. It's incredible. And that's why there's no envy. Because Krishna can satisfy everybody. And the only qualification to make that connection really is when we want to be everyone's well-wisher for the pleasure of Krishna, servant of the servant. So in this way they were performing this wonderful kirtan. And the next day, early morning, they rose for the Rath Yatra. And I have gone sufficiently over time, so I will end here. Thank you very much.